And good Monday evening, sorry, not morning, for another edition here of the Hard Count. I am Asa Costa. I am joined alongside my tag team partners here, if I can get them on screen, the Hall of Fame coach Tony Grijalva and Gabe Grijalva. Gentlemen, it was a busy, busy week for football. If you're a football fan, as we talked about last week with the college football playoffs going on, and of course NFL Wildcard Weekend. But first, Coach and Gabe, how's your guys' Monday going so far?
Well, it's going good. Just sitting around waiting for the next game.
Gabe?
Yep, that's exactly right. Doing normal Monday stuff here at home. Just looking forward to talking about the great football weekend and get ready for tonight's game.
Before we get into NFL Wildcard Week action, a lot of good college bowl games for the college football playoffs there with Ole Miss falling there to Miami, and of course Indiana making some headwaves there, routing their Oregon. Coach, your thoughts just briefly on those two crazy, crazy college football games?
Yeah, I thought for the first game for the Miami game, it was close pretty much all the way. I didn't get a chance to see it, but just looking at the score and so forth, they get a chance to go home and play for a national championship at home, which is pretty cool. And then for the Indiana Hoosiers, boy, they put a whipping on Oregon from the very first play on that interception, and it was downhill all the way from there for Oregon. So it should be a good matchup.
Gabe, right there for the Hoosiers there, a lot of heads being turned. I mean, they've been impressive all year, but everybody's still thinking, they're nobody like the SEC or anything like that. But they made an impression on the world.
No, they sure did. Going into the playoff, they thought, oh well, they're going to play Alabama, SEC team, a lot of history. They'll come down to earth when they play Alabama. Then they took them apart easily. And then it was like, okay, well, Alabama maybe is not that good this year, but Oregon, they played them close once earlier in the season. Maybe Oregon's going to give them a game, and I was one of those. I wasn't 100% convinced. I thought I took Oregon in that game. I thought Oregon's offense would match with their defense and make it a cllose game, but from the jump, Indiana just did anything and everything that they wanted, and then some. Offensively, defensively, they were just so impressive that I just don't see anybody stopping them. I don't see Miami stopping them.
The whole college football dynamic is just it's in a what did they say, a wild wild west format there with NIL and transfer portal rules, and of course the teams there, are people building teams, or are they just looking for superstars? And it's going to be interesting to see for 2026, what one, legislation is going to happen with the portal and all that, and two, and what these coaches philosophies are going to do there. Coach, it's if it's you're a head coach in college football, it's not an easy task.
No, no, it's not. And I mean, it's gotten to the point now where really it's just professional. It's what it is. 'Cause, once it comes down to money, that's pretty much all it is. I start reading about the players that in the portal that have already signed and signing for 2 million and 5 million, and I'm going, this is college. It's not the NFL. So I don't, and I have no idea what's going to happen. But I mean, you're right. If it gets to that point, then those college coaches are going to become general managers, and they're just going to bring the best guys they can. Whoever has the most money is probably going to have the better team. So it'll be interesting to see what turns out there for next year.
It's going to be a crazy one. But what was crazy was this weekend's wild card weekend worth of games here, Gabe. Starting off here with your Los Angeles Rams versus the Carolina Panthers. Crazy game. A lot of big hits there, but the Rams were able to pull that off and get the victory over the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, that was a nail biter to say the least. Um, it just they Carolina was there. They were there to play. They left everything out on the field. A little something here, something there could have gone either way. I was just happy that Matt Stafford had the ball with little over 2 minutes left to drive the length of the field and win the game. So I was comfortable with that. I mean, if we lost, you lose, but at least you have a shot. So they took advantage of it, and were able to pull it out. But hats off to Carolina. What a game. Those big receivers gave the Rams secondary trouble. That blocked kick. As I'd said many times before, the special teams for the Rams, that's their Achilles heel, and it showed up again this week. Um, Luckily, after all that, they were still able to pull it out and move on. So now it's on to Chicago and see what happens there.
It's going to be a crazy one. And speaking of the Chicago Bears, there, Coach, that rivalry has a big history there between the Packers and the Bears. And Coach Ben Johnson, I guess, kind of brought that back with a lot of controversy after that post-game handshake and quoting say, I don't like that team. This is a rivalry there. For the Green Bay Packers struggling in the second half there, Coach, when I turned on the game early on, I was like, oh, Green Bay they're dominant so far. And then come to find out, Caleb Williams and those Bears, the cardiac cats came through and shocked the world there and knocked off the Packers there, Coach.
Well, the Bears have that tendency of playing from behind and playing strong in the fourth quarter, and you don't expect anything less from them, and you probably won't, you shouldn't next week as well. But I think the Packers had a hot start. They really played well early on, and like you said, build up a lead, 21-3 actually, and it looked like Green Bay was going to cruise, and maybe they took their foot out the gas pedal just a little bit too early, I thought, and they changed the offense a little bit. I thought they should have kept running the ball. I think maybe offensively the Packers just panicked a little bit too much, trying to get the ball down the field. But in any case, and then you look at the Bears, and it was the complete opposite. Caleb Williams was having a hard time early on. But I don't know. As soon as it turned to that fourth quarter, it got to the point where he couldn't miss. He was hitting all the passes, and especially that last pass that got him into position where he's off balance. He looks like he's falling back, and he still gets the ball out there. And I mean that's when that not only do you have a good team, but you're a little lucky as well. And I think that the Bears were fortunate enough to get away with that. The Packers did have that one chance there at the end, but somehow they just couldn't. It seemed to me like offensively they were a little bit confused as to what they really wanted to do on that last drive, and they just ran out of time. And the Bears came out on top.
And elaborating on that, the Packers are so used to executing these 2-minute drills, and like you said, they looked out of just not on pace. I mean, yes, Jordan Love didn't play the past couple weeks, but
Right.
they've been practicing for last couple years on that, and it just did not look like the same Packer team there. And of course, like I said, couldn't get up there and tie it up. A crazy stat here: over the past 10 years, the Bears were only 3-17 against the Packers. Obviously, a certain quarterback that's
Wow.
now in Pittsburgh made a couple quotes there saying how he owned them. But it looks like things are changing there, and a lot of Bears fans are excited for this new wave there, Gabe. If you're a fan of the Bears, how excited are you for this next week as they go and face a crazy Los Angeles team?
Well, that's the thing. And the Bears have been doing that. We've talked about it already several times, I believe. Their Bears are just a team that they'll kind of mess around. The first three quarters don't look good at all. Don't do anything fancy. They're just not doing anything where you're going, wow, this is outstanding offense. And then the fourth quarter, and then they fall behind. Fourth quarter comes around, and it's all of a sudden it's a whole different team. So going into this week, in any playoff game now, it's lose or go home. So you can't let your foot off the gas. I was troubled by Green Bay's, like my brother said, their offensive philosophy there with the lead. It did change. They changed what they were doing. They went away from the run a little too early, I think, and not a lot of swing passes and things like that, just to keep the clock running. And And let's face it, this game came down just like Baltimore. I hate to talk about kickers, but it's the kicker. The kicker for Green Bay missed the extra point on that third touchdown, missed the extra point. And then when they were in position to tie the game, he missed a 44-yarder. Those 4 points would have made the difference. And at the end, they wouldn't have needed to score a touchdown. They could have just kicked a field goal. But again, nothing against kickers, but hate that sometimes some of these games come down to that kicker.
It is a crazy one. And now Coach Matt LaFleur is on the hot seat. A lot of chatter there looking for another possible new coach in Green Bay for some fans. We shall see. When we come back from the break, we'll talk more on the Wildcard Weekend Sunday games. You're watching the Hard Count right here on EP Sports Network. And welcome back here to the Hard Count. I'm Mesa Costa, joined alongside the Hall of Fame coach Tony Grijalva and Gabe Grijalva. Tejanos baseball returns back here on EP Sports Network starting January 30th with a three-day homestand against Trinidad State. You can watch that live here on EP Sports Network. And the Tejanas will return home Friday the 13th on February against, I don't remember who they're playing, but I'll get that for you. More info on epsportsnetwork.com. As gentlemen, we move into the Sunday games, which had a lot of excitement as well. Starting off in Jacksonville as the Buffalo Bills and the Jacksonville Jaguars duked it out there, and Buffalo coming over with the wind. Coach, we're going to start off there. Buffalo top seed coming into the year. This year there's no Mahomes, there's no Joe Burrow in the playoffs, and it was for a moment there that Buffalo, they're looking behind the 8 ball there, but were able to pull out that victory.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised watching the game. You look at the Bills; they're offensively, they were struggling a bit, and then of course Josh Allen, he got hit a couple of times pretty hard, and they took him into the medical tent. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know, we'll see if he comes out, what the situation is. And no, he came out, got back out on the field. I believe it was a finger that he hurt. And then a little bit later, he got hit hard again. He goes back into the tent. I said, well, maybe this time he'll stay in the tent. And no, he comes back out once again. And then, he came back and he just led the Bills. I mean, he put everything on his shoulders, which he usually does for the Buffalo Bills, and he did so yesterday, and sort of carried them. I was a bit disappointed in Jacksonville, in Trevor Lawrence. He had 5 weeks of pretty good quarterbacking that he had, and yesterday he just disappeared. He was throwing passes that went over the head. He kept trying to force the ball in the middle. I don't know why he was trying to do that. But you do have to credit the secondary for the Buffalo Bills. They did a great job of disguising. You could tell at times Trevor Lawrence, after he got the snap, he's looking downfield, and you could tell he's confused. He doesn't know where the safety is. He doesn't know what routes to run. And there was a couple of times when he had some receivers running open downfield, but he just didn't see him, and I think it was because he was confused. They stayed in the ball game for a while, but just pretty much ran out of time. And I thought in this game it was experience that won over youth and talent.
Gabe?
Yeah, last week we talked about Jacksonville being the hottest team in the NFL, which they were. I think they had won 8 in a row or something like that going into this week. and Lawrence was looking, fantastic, and it was gonna be really tough. I said the only way that Buffalo would win is if Allen turned into Superman, and guess what
That's right.
happened? Allen turned into Superman. It's exactly what happened. He
Yep.
took the game over, and he ran, he threw. He was in command of that game, and it was a close game. Jacksonville was there. They had a shot at the end. Of course, that tipped the ball for interception ended it. But you know, eh, that guy, man, he's just the guy right now, and going. This bodes well from going in against Denver. I think confident for that team. The defense looked better. They were one of the worst running defenses in the NFL. ETN had his yards, and as a matter of fact, I was surprised that Jacksonville kind of went away a little bit from that. They were having some success, but the Buffalo defense, like my brother says, stepped up, and then they just jumped on Allen's back, and he took them home. So, yeah, no, it's pretty amazing.
Crazy, crazy. What's even crazier was that other second game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. San Francisco had a bunch of injuries coming up into this game. Philadelphia a little bit as well too, but in a slugfest there, San Francisco knocking off the defending Super Bowl champs there. Um, Another key injury for the Niners, George Kittle suffering an Achilles tear early in that game, but next man up seemed to be the way for Coach Shanahan and his 49ers, their coach, as San Francisco knocks off the defending champs.
Well, we talked about the Eagles all season, and oh, they're going to be pretty good. They're in a slump. They're going to break out of the slump. They're defending Super Bowl champions. They're going to get everything together, and they never did. They they got sent home. But looking at yesterday's ball game, I mean, the Eagles offensively just has always been their problem. Just wasn't there. I mean, and it's not just one. To me, it's not one person's fault. It was everybody, the whole unit. And I thought watching that game, I thought the Philadelphia Eagles coaching staff was definitely outcoached. Coach Shanahan and the 49ers, I mean, they took advantage of every situation that they had, including that pass, that wide receiver pass for the touchdown that clinched the ball game for them. And I thought that the 49ers, again, you could tell their strength is not so much in talent right now because they have a lot of people that are hurt. Now you lose George Kittle. I don't know what's going to happen next week. I'm sure Coach Shanahan will figure out something or some way to get the 49ers there. But again, for the Eagles, man, they got a clean house. Something's got to get done over there in Philadelphia because the fan base is not going to be happy.
Not going to be happy there. And we saw that on screen, that interaction between Coach and AJ Brown there. A lot of stuff that, I mean, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it don't look good when your captain and star receiver goes back and looking from afar. Coach ran up to him, after a drop pass and kind of gave into him. Like I said, we don't know the details of it, but still, if we look at the one instance in Arizona early on in the year after the running back fumbled and the coach ran up to him, not a good look if you want to keep that locker room there, Gabe.
Yeah, I'm going to defend the coach here a little bit, only because, first of all, he dropped the pass that was right in his hands. Number one. But number two, he was just walking off the field, and they needed to. He was trying to hurry them to get off the field. He was so upset that he dropped the ball and down and stuff that he was just walking off the field, and they were getting ready to go. Everybody, so he was just running to tell them get off the field, so they can continue. I don't know so much it was because of the drop pass that he got on him. I think he was just trying to get him off the field. But there's something there. You're right. Regardless, you can see there's something there. I don't, really expect Brown to come back, although he did sign a new contract last year. So that's going to be kind of tough to do. But he dropped another pass earlier in the game as well. He's just one of those guys that when he's on, his head's into it. He's amazing. And sometimes I don't know what happens. He just checks out.
It's
So
it's it's gonna be a crazy one. I mean, when's the last
yeah,
time? I'm trying to see my memory. Back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Trying to think who the last one was. Ooh,
the
it's
back
tough.
to
It
back
just
Kansas City.
Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
But other than them, it's been a while because I don't think the Patriots have done it. Not back to back. It's tough. It's tough to run it back here, especially
yeah.
in
Oh
this
yeah. No, no, it's definitely tough. Yeah, for
especially in
sure.
this especially in this day and age. As we continue here with the Sunday games, the Los Angeles Chargers versus the New England Patriots in prime time on NBC. That game, a lot of Chargers fans were excited, but they ran into a buzzsaw that was the New England Patriots, their coach.
Yeah, well, the talk for most of the season was the Chargers had problems with their offensive line, and every week we were looking forward to them fixing that problem. They are professionals, and try and make adjustments and figure out a way. And last night, I mean, if you're Herbert, I mean, he was getting bounced around all over the place. I'm surprised. I'm actually giving credit for actually getting up a couple of times because he was completely, he was completely shut down. And 3 points for the Chargers, is really unheard of with the type of talent that they have offensively and also defensively as well. The Patriots did just what they needed to do. Drake May wasn't. He didn't have an exceptional day. He just got things done. And of course, the running tandem that the Patriots have of Henderson and the other, what is his name? Stevenson.
Stevenson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean they can carry a ball game. I mean they don't have to
Hmm.
throw the ball. All they have to do is run it, and with that they can pretty much take care of things. But it'll be interesting in the next round. The Chargers, they got a lot of work to do, especially on that offensive line.
Gabe, right there for Drake May, a lot of talk, about him once he entered the league, finally getting that playoff win. How important was it for him to get this first win under his belt?
Oh no, I think it's huge. I mean, if there's one thing, I mean, they had a fantastic season. 15 wins, I believe, on the year, and the only question mark. Well, one of the things was they didn't play a great schedule. They played the worst schedule uh, in the league for this season, but he won almost all of them. So the question was, what's he going to do against some better competition? Well, last night, like my brother said, he didn't have a great game. He had a pick, he had two fumbles. And,
Mhm.
if he didn't have such a really good defense behind him, that might have been a problem, may have come back to bite him. But because they have such a good defense, they were able to overcome those mistakes that he made. And I think his running makes a big difference. I think he ended up with like 69 yards rushing or something like that. And
Yeah.
so his legs make a difference, and he's a smart quarterback. He right reads, he great anticipation, throws it in the right spots. So getting that one win, that win under his belt in a playoff game is huge. Going forward, that confidence is going to go a long way. So uh, this next week is going to be another test for him, but he looks like he's going to be up to it.
The New England Patriots will be waiting for the winner of tonight's Monday night playoff game between the Houston Texans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. CJ Stout versus Aaron Rodgers, their coach. Pittsburgh's offense does not look the same as it did, but DJ Metcalf is back in the rotation here. If you're the Texans, what do you got to do to advance to the next round?
Oh, you just got to control the ball on offense and let your defense figure out the rest of it because they do have one of the strongest defenses in the NFL. The Texans do, and you've got to let them play. But in order to do that offensively, Stroud and Marks, the running back, and a couple of receivers, Collins and Schultz. They have the offensive manpower to be able to control the ball. Houston's not one of those quick striking teams. Usually, that they're deliberate. They sustain drives, and if they can do that against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Steelers, they have Aaron Rodgers. So that's the experience that's going to come into play. With Metcalf, I mean, I don't know, being out 2 weeks and the way Metcalf is with his attitude, who knows? Maybe he's going to come in and be mad for 4 quarters because he didn't play the previous 2 games, or he may break out. I mean, I don't know. That's going to be kind of tough. But I think Pittsburgh, their defense will keep him in the game for a while, I think. But
Now,
eventually, I think the Texans will come out on top.
now, Gabe, if you're Coach Tomlin, obviously he kind of tunes out a lot of the chatter being around him, but still to get that playoff win because it's been a while since the Steelers advanced to the next round. What do you got to do to tell your team to help them get ready for this win?
Just play, mistake-free football if you can. I mean, just everybody do their job. The problem is going to be these defensive ends from Houston. Putting pressure on Rodgers. Rodgers is almost like a statue now. He can't roll. He can't move anymore. Back in the day, he can kind of scramble a bit. Now he's kind of sitting there as sitting duck for these defensive ends. So what I think you're going to see from Pittsburgh is you're going to see a lot of the short game, a lot of passes out of the backfield. Gainwell, if you play player props, might be a guy to go with on the over receptions. I think he's going to get a lot of receptions, and Farmuth at tight end. So they're going to have to try and do that old dink and dunk thing to try and eat up the clock and make their ways down the field. Because although Metcalf is back, I don't know how much time Rodgers is going to have to find him and get to him. So, but it's Pittsburgh, so they're going to have to hang their hat on their defense, and that's what they're going to have to do. Pressure Stroud, maybe get him to make a couple of mistakes, and hopefully that'll snowball. And then Pittsburgh at home with that crowd, maybe they can pull it out.
A lot of action left to be played here. When we come back from the break, we'll have the divisional round matchups. You're watching the Hard Count right here live on EP Sports Network. And welcome back here to the Hard Count. I am Mesa Costa, joined alongside the Hall of Fame coach Tony Grijalva and Gabe Grijalva. As you saw on the ads there, the Lone Star QB Academy is going to be holding their first camp sessions this Sunday, January 18th at Austin High School. Visit LoneStarQBAcademy.com to register there. And before that, Coach, we will be at Bowie High School for the annual Bowie Invitational, where majority of the El Paso County schools, along with some Las Cruces schools, will be vying it there for that historic tournament there. Eastwood will be on the road at Flowing Wells, so a jam-packed weekend for high school athletics and, of course, the NFL here. As we move into Saturday games in the divisional round, as we spoke a little bit earlier, as the Denver Broncos welcome in the Buffalo Bills there, Gabe. Denver coming in as the number 1 seed, facing a Buffalo team that looks a little bit more energized.
Yeah, Denver, number 1 seed, gets a week off. I'm not convinced that that's always a good thing for some teams, especially some young teams, to take a couple of weeks off. Of course, Denver has that defense they can rely on, and it's a tough place to play. However, they got Buffalo coming in, lots of playoff experience, lots of road playoff experience. They're playing well right now, and the way they play offensively, in terms of hitting tight ends, running backs out of the backfield, they're the number one rushing team. Um, I think they have a shot against Denver. It's all going to come down to how the quarterback play is for Denver, because sometimes he shows up, sometimes he doesn't, sometimes he waits till the very end, kind of like Chicago. They pull out games at the end, so it's going to make for a really interesting matchup. But Buffalo, especially after the confidence they gained this past week, uh, they're going to be a handful for Denver. So it wouldn't shock me if Buffalo pulled that one out.
Coach, Denver was facing a lot of little controversy there when they let go of Russell Wilson in that crazy kind of scene, between Coach
Right.
Sean Payton and all that. But a couple years now passed. Denver's the number one seed. Sean Payton's been in this situation before. Playing in Mile High, that air is a little bit different. Players, breathe a little bit different there. Um, Advantage for the Broncos, you say, or does Buffalo playing in the snow doesn't really affect them that much?
No, I think it's advantage Buffalo. I mean, I know you look at the picture for both teams, and as you mentioned, the Broncos have Sean Payton, very experienced quarterback. The only problem is he's not going to play. But Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills, he will be on the field, and I think that that's going to me that's going to be the difference. You got Bo Nix, the quarterback for the Broncos, who, as you mentioned, has very little experience. They do have he does have some good weapons on offense, but Buffalo again with Josh Allen having the experience that he does and being able to run the ball as well as throw it. To me, the pressure going to be on the Denver defense. Everybody talks about how good they are. Well, they're going to have to stop the Buffalo Bill offense, and I think that's being a number one seed, playing at home, expecting everybody's expecting them to win. Puts quite a bit of pressure on them. So, the Buffalo Bills, they had nothing to lose. They weren't supposed to be here anyway. So, for them, they just go out and play just like they normally do. So, I think it's advantage Buffalo.
Should be a good one there in the AFC. As we move to the NFC, and the other number one seed, the Seattle Seahawks will welcome in another familiar foe that they just played a couple weeks ago, but a new look San Francisco 49er team. Not going to be the same Niners that they saw a couple weeks ago. What was it, on a Saturday?
Mhm.
Gabe, rivalries are big. San Francisco and Seattle, that's another big rivalry, but it should be a duke out up there in Seattle.
Absolutely, absolutely. Divisional foes. This is the third time they play. Like you said, they played a couple of weeks ago. That one was in San Francisco. This one will be in Seattle. But make no mistake, this is going to be a knockdown, drag out fight. Even though San Francisco's, short on players, now Kittle's out, but he was out 5 weeks earlier this year already, and they were able to function well without him. They have Tunges as his backup, and he's a really good tight end as well. So I don't know how much they're going to miss him. Um, the problem is that defense. That in that last game, they scored 3 points on that Seattle defense, and which is really tough, especially at home. But there's also the Darnold factor. We'll see what happens. He's one of those guys that sometimes tends to make mistakes in crucial situations. So it makes for a really interesting game. San Francisco, like my brother was saying about Buffalo, they've got nothing to lose. With all the injuries, nobody expected them to be there, and they're playing a familiar opponent. Nobody's going to surprise anybody. Everybody knows what they do. So it's going to come down to, who doesn't make the big mistake to win the game. So, I'm looking forward to that one. I think it's going to be a really good game.
Coach, speaking of Sam Darnold there, he throws the ball a lot more than what Jalen Hurts does. So as we thought, well, I thought Philadelphia was kind of one-dimensional because you knew they were going to try to run it up with Saquon Barkley and Hurts. Seattle has all those different weapons out there. Going to be a tough one for a San Francisco defense that their linebacker Kendricks has stepped up, but still, can he cover them all?
Well, what you're looking at here is a Seattle team, as was talked about before, with a great defense. Usually, teams with good defenses, their offense is out there to pretty much to control the tempo and sort of try and manage the game. And Darnold's pretty good at managing games, so yeah, I give him that. But then again, going back to the coaching factor. You've got Kyle Shanahan at San Francisco who just beat the Eagles, outcoached the Eagles, and if anybody can come up with a scheme, especially on the third time around, to be able to prepare and beat a very good Seattle defense, I would pick Kyle Shanahan to try and get that done. So again, it's another situation where the 49ers aren't supposed to be here, so. To them, it's just to go out there and play hard and hope for the best. And I think, as my brother said, this is going to be probably the most exciting game of this coming weekend, just because, in my mind, it's the most evenly matched. If you look at the coaching and the level on the field, obviously Seattle has a higher level as far as athletes, but that doesn't always win ball games. So it should be interesting.
It should be interesting. And coming off the wire here on NFL.com, Bills wide receiver Gabe Davis suffered a torn ACL in the playoff win over the Jaguars, so he will be out there for the Buffalo Bills there. One of their weapons for Josh Allen is not going to be playing there as they face the number 1 seed Denver Broncos.
That means Shakur's going to get more. Shakur's going to get more targets. That's how that's all that's going to happen.
As we move into Sunday's game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Chicago Bears. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but the Chicago Bears coming in with a lot of momentum, a lot of power from that Windy City. The Los Angeles Rams, kind of up and down season, but trending the right direction there, Gabe. For the Rams, what do they got to do to be successful over Caleb Williams and those Chicago Bears?
Don't make any mistakes, It's what it comes down to, just executing what they do. The thing I like about this game is these teams haven't played each other. So offensively, Chicago is really good. They're really good. As we can see, they can go up and down the field. The problem is they try and score in bunches. And that's if they can depend on that and it works, it's great. But they're not always going to come back in the fourth quarter against every team and score, 25 points as they did last week. On the other side of the ball, their defense does struggle. And with the Rams offense, if they're hitting on all cylinders, running the ball and running their offense like they do, they're going to put some points on the board. So I think it's going to come down to Chicago, their offense, and the ability of the inability of the Ram defense or secondary to be able to stop their passing game. So it's going to be interesting to see if what's going to take hold, either the Rams offense against the Chicago defense or the Ram defense against Chicago offense, and when it's going to happen. If it happens late, it happens early. We're just going to have to see who's going to execute better. Who knows what the weather's going to be like? It is Chicago. If it's a snow game, that could change the whole complexion of the whole game. So, yeah. Needless to say, I'm going to be up early looking at the weather reports on Sunday to see what happens.
Coach, what's another impressive, I guess, kind of, I want to say stat, 3 teams from the same division are still in this playoffs here for the NFC. very tough because a lot of people didn't understand. Well, not understand, but early on they're like, that might be the weakest division other than the Seahawks. But for those three teams to still be in the playoff hunt, very tough football being played over there.
Yeah, it really is, and that's why you don't. Whatever happens, whatever people say at the beginning of the season, really means nothing at this point of the year. It's just whoever's playing the best right now is going to be is going to be in the playoffs and be successful. And I think that for the Rams, I'm a bit concerned about Stafford. When he jammed that finger. I've never seen him in that middle of the game after he jammed that finger. He made some throws that you know that were overthrown and just inaccurate, and I've never seen him do that before. He's one of the most accurate passers that's playing right now in the NFL. So that concerned me a little bit. He did come back from it, and he's got a week to get that treatment and get that done. But we always when we talk about the Rams, we talk about the Stafford and throwing the ball, but I think the Rams have to run the ball. I think they have to establish the running game early and often, and force the Bear defense to make that adjustment, and then that's just going to open up the passing game. And that's like my brother said. The Bears, they're a fourth quarter team. They've done it all year. At some point, you sort of run out of luck, and I hope they don't wait until the fourth quarter of the Bears this week, because I don't know how much they'll be in it in the fourth quarter. So I think the first quarter, second quarter is going to be crucial for both teams.
We know Soldier Field will be rocking there.
Oh yeah.
Again, we don't know the teams that are going to be facing the New England Patriots, as they'll be kicking off in about 45 minutes or so at 6:15 between the Texans and the Steelers. We'll head to Foxborough to face the New England Patriots. When we come back from the break, we'll have our predictions of the games and talk about a little bit of the coaching carousel and what possible landing spots some of these coaches might go. You guys are watching the Hard Count right here live on EP Sports Network. And welcome back here to the Hard Count. I am Mesa Costa, joined alongside the Hall of Fame coach Tony Grijalva and Gabe Grijalva. Gentlemen, prediction time here. A lot of games going to be happening this weekend, but we will start off, if I can get to that screen here, Buffalo and Denver. Gabe, your predictions.
Yeah, I talked a little bit earlier about Buffalo getting over the hump. My concern for them was being able to get past Jacksonville. I was going to take a huge game from Allen, which is exactly what he did. And so they're kind of past that. They're kind of playing with house money now, and I think they've got the style of offense and the players that can give that Denver and their number one defense a little bit of trouble. So I'm going to take Buffalo in this one. I think Allen keeps it going and it goes on to the AFC Championship game.
Coach?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Talk about Buffalo. They got the experience. They've been there before. They've done that. Denver, although they're probably the younger team, they probably have the better players at this point. But I think right now, experience wins out, and the Buffalo Bills advance.
As we move to Seattle there, the San Francisco 49ers versus Seattle Seahawks. Gabe, your predictions against your I guess foes, because you are a Rams fan.
Well, I've seen a lot of these two teams, so I'm pretty familiar with them. I think a lot of pressure's on Seattle. They did everything they could to win that number one seed, and they won it a couple of weeks ago, so now they have it. They're at home, with a shot to go to the NFC Championship game. But they still have Darnold at quarterback. I'm just not convinced. On the other hand, San Francisco, nothing to lose. They shouldn't even be here. All the injuries and so forth. And so, I'm going to take San Francisco in an upset in that one.
Ooh, upset there. As we go to Sunday, Gabe, we think we know what team you're going to be picking, but still, the Rams versus the Bears there at Soldier Field.
Yeah, the Rams got the scare this past week. Everybody was saying, "Oh, it's an 8-9 team they're playing. They should blow them out and so forth." But nobody told Carolina. They showed up, they played hard, and they were right there. The Rams, because of Matt Stafford, let's face it, were able to pull it out. And that's the reason I'm going to go with the Rams again, because of Matt Stafford. At the end of the day, they've got, probably a future Hall of Fame quarterback. He's been there before. He's won a Super Bowl. They're playing a quarterback who's playing really, really well, just doesn't have the experience. As my brother said in the last game with Buffalo and Denver, I think the experience is going to make a difference. So I'm going to take the Rams.
Coach? Oh, you're muted, Coach. You're muted. Technology 2026.
Better. I was saying that the Rams, they know exactly where they're at. They know exactly what their goals are, obviously, and they're an experienced team. So I think right now that they'll take advantage of this position against the Chicago Bears team, as we talked about before, that is talented but inexperienced. And the Rams they're on a mission. And so they'll get by this week and work on next week as well.
Should be an interesting one here. No predictions for the Texans, Steelers yet, or the New England Patriots. We'll wait till that game plays out here. But moving quickly into some of these openings for NFL coaching, head coaching vacancies. Kind of the talk of the town right now is where John Harbaugh is going to be interviewing at. I guess he selected 3 teams that he's possibly going to do. Raiders not being one of them. Kind of crazy. Like, you get fired from one job, but all of a sudden you're a top candidate at another 6.
Well, I mean, that's the way the situation is nowadays. I'm reading, the coaches that have been hired recently obviously have signed contracts that are much more that pay much more than coaches that signed 5 years ago. Because the salary's been moving up. So to me, Harbaugh's in a great place. He can go wherever he wants. He's probably sitting home right now, looking through all the folders and trying to pick out the pluses and the minuses of where he wants to go. And he's probably already talked to the GMs about who he's going to take and what can he do? What can't he do? Does he get full control of everything? I mean, that's the situation he's in. So we'll see who gives him that opportunity. I don't think it's so much about landing spots as far as who has the best team. I know for most of us, that would be one of the first things. Why don't you go to a team that is winning? Yeah, I mean, he's proven to be a winner as a coach. So wherever he goes, he's gonna build up that program, and that's why he is popular. So, but yeah, he's in a great situation. I think that he's not gonna be pushed. He's not gonna be hurried. He's gonna take his time, and whenever he thinks that it's the right situation for him, I'm sure he'll take advantage of it.
Gabe talks. Well, actually, Mike McDaniel's interview today with the Cleveland Browns. That situation kind of. I mean, he's a great offensive mind, but as a head coach and with all that drama with all their quarterbacks there, I don't know. That's an interesting. Whoever gets the job in Cleveland, it's not going to be an easy one.
No, it's not. And so, I think the best, or the so-called best candidates, the fact there's so many openings, they're gonna be kind of spread out. And I think Cleveland is gonna be stuck with kind of, I don't want to say it this way, but leftovers, because of the other teams that have vacancies. When you've got Baltimore with you've got an established MVP quarterback, there. You've got the Giants, who have a good young nucleus: quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Um, you got Atlanta. They've got Bijan Robinson. They've got Drake London. They've got a young defense, young solid defense. So the better coaches, better candidates are going to be kind of already picked out. So um, I think Cleveland's is going to kind of have to take whatever candidates is remains in order to try and run their team. And I'm sure. Well, I would think it's probably going to be just a young guy who wants to take that first step into being a head coach and establish himself. So I'm thinking it's going to be Cleveland's going to take some young coordinator to kind of start fresh with.
It's an interesting one. That is the NFL coaching carousel there. It's busy weekend here for NFL football, obviously with the Texans and the Steelers tonight, and of course the divisional round this weekend. But we like to remind you guys, tomorrow we'll have high school Tuesday night hoops as the El Dorado Aztecs will face off against the Hanks Knights in boys and girls action. And then Friday, we will be at Bowie High School for the Bowie Invitational. Over 20 schools will be participating in that one. And of course, the Lone Star QB Academy will be taking place on Sunday. Visit LoneStarQBAcademy.com to register there. Gentlemen, thank you so much for another week of football. We got one more week again before the Super Bowl matchups are getting close to being finalized. Any last thoughts there? Does fantasy still go on this deep in the level area? Because I'm not a fantasy football player, but I know the prize picks are, but I don't know about fantasy.
As long as there's a game and there's players, there is fantasy.
There's the day, what they call daily fantasy, where you can pick players from these different sites for each game. As far as season long fantasy, that already ended. That ended in week 17. So
Gotcha.
there's no more of that. So it's all just kind of daily fantasy for individual groups of games. So
See,
like my bro says, there's always games, so there's always fantasy.
and who said you guys are not tech savvy, huh? It's all this stuff going on here. I don't even know that. So for the Hall of Fame coach Tony Grijalva, Gabe Grijalva, we thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Hard Count. We will see you guys next Monday, which is Martin Luther King Day as well. We'll have a special AFC NFC championship preview. So for the guys here, we thank you guys for tuning in. See you guys later.